Hi everyone, thanks for coming. This presentation is all about how to barbecue using direct and indirect heat. Now if I was in Adobe Connect, I would ask you all to raise your hands and give me a high five just to make sure you're all awake, but as we're not, just click the top of the screen and pretend. I'd also ask if anyone has any experience cooking or grilling or burning on a barbecue. Please give me a tick. If you haven't, give me a cross. Okay, as I can't see if any of you have put a tick or a cross on, as I'm not in Adobe Connect, I'll just assume that the majority of you have some knowledge of what a barbecue is, and some of you have actually used one before. As with most of the sessions I do, I like to have a set of learning objectives, just so we know what the learning outcomes of this session will be. So, in this session we will learn about the difference between direct and indirect grilling, basically what we mean by direct and indirect grilling and how to use them. Also, we'll be looking at alternative methods of starting your barbecue. Most of you who have got or used a barbecue, you've probably just thrown the charcoal on, a couple of firelighters, paper, matches, petrol, hope for the best. I'll be showing you a different way of starting your barbecue, and also we'll be looking at configuring your barbecue to use different fire zones. Fire zones, it's just the macho name for where your direct and indirect zones will be on your barbecue. Okay, let's start with the direct heat method of cooking. It's the main method used while cooking on a barbecue. The food is placed and cooked directly over or under the fire or heat source. I've included the words "or under" as more of a visual reminder. Give me a tick if you've all got a grill at home. Well, imagine you're giving me a tick if you've all got grills at home. It's the same principle. You have your food directly under the heat source in a grill. On a barbecue using direct heat, you have your food directly over the heat source. It's the high heat method used to cook food quickly. It cooks it quickly because it's in close proximity to the heat source, and typical foods cooked using direct heat include steak, chicken breasts and burgers. The list is a lot longer, but I've only included those just as a basic demonstration. Also later on I'll be showing you how to cook burgers over direct heat. Okay, moving on to indirect heat. Just like to point out, you can only cook with indirect heat if your barbecue has a lid. I'll explain why further on. The food is placed next to the fire or heat source on your barbecue. This allows it to be cooked slowly and more thoroughly. It's the same principle as having an oven or cooking something in the oven. The reason for the lid as well, if your oven didn't have a lid, your food wouldn't cook. It's a low heat method used to cook food slowly, and typical foods cooked using indirect heat includes ribs, brisket, which is large cuts of beef, sausages, whole chickens or other large pieces of food. Okay, so now you're all experts on direct and indirect cooking methods, we'll now move on to the subject of how to get your barbecue started. First of all, one question every hardcore barbecuer is asked: charcoal or gas? Right, well, first off, let's look at gas as a heat source. It's a clean fuel, it won't leave any residue or ash. Charcoal will, plus you have to wait for the charcoal to heat up. So gas is almost instantaneous. Charcoal, you need to wait about 20-30 minutes for your charcoal to be ready to use. As for the taste, in blind taste tests people could not tell the difference between a charcoal cooked burger or a gas cooked burger because they were done direct and they were done quickly. Reason for this is the longer the food came into contact with charcoal, the more smoky flavour it got. As there's no smoky residue or anything from gas, people could tell the difference. So, temperature. How do you get your charcoal to light, and how do you make sure they're at the right temperature so you can cook easily and quickly? The picture on screen shows charcoal at the right temperature. It needs to be covered in a white ash. When it looks like that, you know you're ready to go. As I've only got a charcoal barbecue at home, I'll be showing you how to cook with charcoal. Easiest thing I've ever done, to be honest, is cheat and use something called a chimney. It's basically a steel tube with a grate at the bottom, and what happens is you fill it up with charcoal, put a couple of firelighters or some paper underneath it, pop it on your grill, set light to the firelighters and paper. 20 to 30 minutes, your charcoal's done, it's at the right temperature, and you can just start. You haven't got to worry about building pyramids of charcoal or using petrol, firelighters, matches, tons of paper, that sort of thing. It does it all for you. So we're now going to move on to setting up our fire zones. Most people call them fire zones because it sounds macho. To be honest, all we are doing is setting up our direct and indirect heating areas. So the highlighted areas are my direct fire zones, or my direct cooking areas. This will be where I'll be cooking the burgers. So the middle area, which has no charcoal, will be my indirect heat source, or my indirect fire zone. Tin foil's there to help reflect heat and also to catch any fat that drips off my sausages. So I've had my charcoal going in my chimney for about 30 minutes. It's now at the right temperatures to start cooking. So I've tipped them out into my side direct fire zones. They might not look as white as I want them to because it was actually -4 when I was doing this, because that's how hardcore I am. So after you've got your fire zones sorted, place the actual grill back on your barbecue. Place the lid, if your barbecue has a lid, back on. If your barbecue has a lid, it probably has vents to control air. Make sure they're all open, otherwise your fire will go out. Wait 5 minutes. The grill will have heated up enough so all the leftover dirt and fat from the previous session will have carbonised. Then just give it a good scrape and it should just come off, give you a nice clean surface to work on. And then pop your lid back on. Wait another 10 minutes for the grill to actually heat up, and also the actual cooking surfaces to heat up. It's the same method as preheating an oven. So when that's all done, we're ready to start cooking. So our barbecue is now nice and hot. Take off the lid, place the relevant foods on the relevant parts of the grill. Burgers over the direct heat, sausages in the middle for indirect. Remember that if you place food that needs indirect heat on direct heat, they will burn. If you try to cook those sausages the same ways as you cook the burgers, you would end up with sticks of charcoal. So, burgers as well, homemade by myself, and sausages, unfortunately, out of a packet. So, now we've got our food on there, pop on the lid, and away we go. So we've got the lid back on the barbecue, all our vents are open, probably got a beer or a cider on the go, or whatever you want to drink. The optimum cooking time for burgers over direct heat is around about between 4 to 6 minutes. The best way really is to experiment. You just get some plain old burgers and practice. My burgers normally take around about 6 minutes because I like them well done. So other people might like them medium, some people might like them rare. So best thing to do is to practice, experiment. Also, the filling you put in your burgers may affect cooking time as well. So best thing to do is to practice a few times before you let yourself loose on friends or family, because you don't really want to end up poisoning them, do you? Or do you? That's up to you. Personally, I'd rather not poison my in-laws because I'd never hear the end of it. Anyway, between 4 and 6 minutes, lift the lid, check your burgers. So, to check your burgers, just remove the lid. Now, probably the best time is to flip them to see if they're done on that side. If they stick to the grill, then some people say they're not done, some people say they're burnt. It's, again, down to practice. The burgers on screen, they're not burnt, okay, let's get that straight. They're charred, okay. There is a difference between burning and charring. In my book, if something's burnt, you can write with it. If it's charred, like those burgers are, they're spot on. Sausages down the middle, you'll see I've just turned them slightly, and they have score marks on. Now the score marks are a sign of experience. All barbecuers, or grillers, whatever you want to call yourselves, love to have those score marks, or hatch marks as they're called by some people, on their food. It shows it's kind of like a Michelin star, kind of a badge of honour. So, burgers done, flipped over, sausages rolled over so they don't cook all on one side, and pop the lid on, and away we go again. So we've popped our lid back on, the burgers are still cooking. Now, if they've taken 6 minutes to do one side, they'll take 6 minutes to do the other. When you get to around about 5 minutes in, if you're after something like a cheeseburger, now's the time to pop your cheese on. Cheese only needs about a minute to melt. However, if you experiment with different types of cheeses, different cheeses have different melting temperatures. So again, you'll need to practice. The cheese I've put on mine is a spicy cheese I get from the local supermarket. It's quite nice on burgers, gives it a nice kick. So pop your cheese on, pop the lid back on, and give it about 60 seconds and lift the lid, and we'll see what's happened. So 60 seconds later, and they look like that. Right, that's it, your burgers are done. So they took around about 12 minutes to get to that stage. Sausages will need another 5 to 10 minutes as they're cooking indirectly. So you can there are burgers to sausage ratios. I'll cover them in another slide further on. But those burgers are done. Get them off. Let them rest for about a minute. This lets the juices get reabsorbed back into the meat so it's nice and juicy. So your burgers are done. Pop them in your rolls. Always make sure the fillings or your toppings are on the top. Reason for that is, if you imagine yourself holding a burger, you have your thumbs at the bottom, fingers at the top. Your fingers have more control over the actual burger. If the fillings are at the top, you can control the burger, make sure it doesn't squeeze or squirt out. If you had it the other way around, chances are your burger could pop out and probably take an eye out if it's been burnt. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to sit there and eat with safety goggles on, so just make sure your toppings are on the top. Now my sausages in the left hand picture are done. I can get roughly 1 load of sausages to 1.5 burgers, which means when I turn the second load of burgers, the first batch of sausages are done. Might be different when you do it, you might want to time it, but it's all down to practice. So get out there, practice, cook loads of things, experiment with your burgers, the food you can cook, just go for it. So any questions, obviously as I'm not online, or we're not all online in Connect, you just post them in the forum that I've posted this in. I think it will probably be in the common room, but what I'll do as well is I'll post up some of the other recipes that I use for my barbecues. There's something called crack bread, which doesn't actually have crack in it, it just means it is very, very addictive. A few other recipes there as well there. Up to you, take them, make them your own. The crack bread, My favourite version is the one where I use mozzarella cheese and pepperoni. That's just me. I love pizza. It's kind of like a pizza bread. So take the recipes, make them your own. Same with the barbecuing. So just like to end up to say thanks for watching. Good luck with the barbecuing. Any problems, any questions, we're all on Facebook, so just send me a message. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.